A brand new development this morning in the battle over President Trump's immigration order.
The president outlining his next steps and striking an optimistic tone aboard Air Force One.
We'll win that battle, but we also have a lot of other options, including just filing a brand new order on Monday.
So let's bring in defense attorney Alan Dershowitz. He's a Harvard law professor emeritus and a lifelong Democrat. Nice to see you this morning, sir.
Thank you.
Welcome back to the show. So what do you think the president's move will be legally on Monday? We're hearing rumors that it would maybe in an effort to tighten up the legality of the executive order and issue a second one. Do you think that's going to move?
Well, immediately after the court rendered its decision, I got on television and wrote op-eds urging the president to do that because he is going to lose in the Ninth Circuit, and he will lose in the Supreme Court in trying to get a stay. He may ultimately win in the Supreme Court on the merits because the Ninth Circuit's order was far too broad, but it'll take him months to do that. And he said this is a national security crisis, and if it is, we need to have in place an executive order, one that's constitutional. So the smart move is to let the Ninth Circuit case move slowly on a slow track, get a new executive order. It will be challenged, but perhaps another circuit court somewhere in the country will have a more positive ruling. So if it gets to the Supreme Court and splits 4-4, then you get an affirmance of the more positive ruling rather than the negative ruling. So that's the smart approach, and he seems to be following this advice and pursuing that approach.
Alan, from a legal perspective, what needs to be tweaked in order to ensure that, the spirit, what he intended to do, which is secure our country, happens, and it's not diluted, but it passes legal muster?
Oh, very simple. He has to make sure that he distinguishes between people who have green cards on the one hand or have legitimate visas or are in this country properly, and the family from Yemen who have never been in this country, simply make a visa application because they'd like to come and see the Statue of Liberty. They have no constitutional rights. They have no property rights. And so you have to distinguish between categories of potential visitors to the United States. You also have to put a few more due process safeguards into the process so that it seems to be fairer to the courts and maybe tone down some of the religious language. I think we can have a win-win here. I think we can have a constitutional order that protects Americans.
So he's also pledging to take additional steps to improve security. He's going to make another announcement on this. Alan, what else are you expecting to come from this administration on that front?
Well, he talks about vetting, and I think we can do more to vet. Look, we've been quite successful after 9/11. Obviously, we were utterly a failure before 9/11. The intelligence agencies didn't talk to each other. People came through the cracks. We've been relatively successful. I think what's needed now is not a massive revision of everything, but a tweaking and an improvement and shaping up of what we have on the books now. And the most important thing is to keep it constitutional. Look, these challenges are going to persist over the next 4 years. We now have not only the courts challenging the president, but we have states, for the first time really, states serving as a check and balance on the executive branch. And that's a new phenomenon, and it will be a very important one.
You mentioned tone down the religious language, but there was no religious language in the executive order. Why the obfuscation that this is a religiously targeted thing as opposed to something focused on national security in states where they don't properly vet?
Well, there is one focus on religion. It talks about minority religions need to be protected. And by the way, I agree with that. When the Jews were being persecuted by the Nazis in 1944, but they're not the only ones. You have the Baha'is being persecuted. You have the Kurds being persecuted. You have Sunnis being persecuted by Shias, Shias by Sunnis. I think a little bit more can be done, but there's no constitutional problem in protecting religious groups when their religion is the object of persecution by others. As long as there's a secular purpose, you can have religious categories, as long as the purpose is not to promote the religion over other religions.
Well, if you read the tea leaves, it looks like more and more we're going to see a new executive order early this week. Alan Dershowitz, great to see you.
Thanks, Alan.
Thanks so much for being out.